Okay, hello. I'm going to be going over the difference between primitive and postural reflexes here, as per our learning objective number three, I think. Basically, the idea here is that when infants and fetuses even start to come to being, the majority of their reflexes, majority of the movements are reflexive. The first ones to emerge are primitive uh, reflexes, primitive survival reflexes, generally pertaining to the feeding and nourishment of the baby, with some exception. And there's uh, primitive postural reflexes. Primitive reflexes to start with generally emerge first, and they include things like the Moro reflex, which is kind of like a arm extension when as a sort of panic response. But more relevantly, the sucking reflex, searching reflex, tendency for the hands to grasp, as the palmar mental slash palmar mandibular, both part of the hand mouth reflex, are instrumental to the feeding of the baby, and therefore they're both primitive reflexes, right? These are concerned mainly with nourishing the baby and eating. So the grasping reflex in general, as well as they're all relevant to nourishing, but Babinski and plantar grasping is kind of one that stands out for primitive reflexes, because the foot will sort of grasp when the sole is touched, and it's not overly different, I think, than how kind of like the hands are wired there. So it kind of makes sense. Um, The postural reflexes, on the other hand, are kind of pre-evolved forms of of voluntary movements later in life. This includes things like the pull-up reflex, which is a baby's way of sort of grasping forward to correct their balance when they've been pushed over. The parachute and propping reflexes, which are both reflexes intended to help them maintain an upright position, or at least to cushion instinctively their falls. Well, not really falls, but when they are lowered or tilted to the ground from an upright position. There's riding reflexes, crawling. Postural reflexes are largely about defending the baby and sort of keeping it safe, as well as maintaining posture for those basic movements that will come about later in life.